Dead Art Studios, and today we're doing a Wiki art deep dive into perhaps my favourite of the abstract expressionists and potentially my favourite painter. He's vying for the prize of most depressed artist along with Jackson Pollock, and it is Marko Rothko. So I've opened up Wiki art. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to drink some cocoa, I'm going to go through his paintings, read a little bit about his life, and see what we think of his artwork. Mark Rothko. And at the top here, we can see he has a Latvian name as well, in some kind of, I don't know if this is Latvian or the Russian alphabet. I'm not really sure what the lexicon is over there. Markus Rothkovitz. I do find it interesting how, like Jackson Pollock's name, his first name is not Jackson, it was his middle name. I find it interesting how they've changed their names to make them a bit more catchy. You see, even these guys back then were thinking of how to promote themselves. He was born September the 25th, 1903, in Daugavpils in Latvia. Definitely butchered that. He died February the 25th, 1970, in Manhattan, New York, the United States. 67 when he died. He was active from 1925 to 1970. Now, he has a longer life than I thought. I thought his life, I think he had a tragic ending, but I thought it was shorter than that, so that's interesting to know. So he was American, he was Jewish, and he was Latvian. On his art movements, abstract expressionism and abstract art. Here he is, classic bald head, glasses, standing in front of one of his gigantic colour-filled paintings, ironically in black and white. Painting school, the New York school, the Irascibles, and the 10. Now, I'm not going to click on those, but that is something I'm going to look into in the future. Probably some of the small groups that he was part of. And his field was painting, obviously, and he was influenced by Edward Hopper, which is interesting. I didn't realise that was the case, although I can see a sort of mood similarity in his work. Ad Reinhardt, do not know. Caspar David Friedrich, do not really know. Salvador Dali, of course, we know. And Milton Avery, I do not know. So there's some artists to look at in the future. And influenced Helmut Federle, Charles Gibbons, Michael Majerus, and Dan Lemaire. Interesting. Friends and co-workers, Jackson Pollock. I think they used to argue a lot and get drunk in the pubs with the other abstract expressionists. Okay. Let's click more so we can read all of this. So Mark Rothko is a key figure in abstract expressionism, best known for his large colour-filled paintings, randomly, like number 61, they just throw in there, Rust and Blue, in 1953. Born Markus Rothkovitz in Davinsk, in the Russian Empire, now Latvia, so it would have probably been the Russian alphabet. In 1903, he and his family emigrated to the United States in 1913, and he began his undergraduate studies at Yale University in 1921, but left 2 years later to move to New York. Brave move. Rothko took classes at the Art Students League and was briefly a student of the Jewish American painter Max Weber, but he was mostly a self-taught painter. During his early years, he painted different scenes of the New York subway, like Entrance to the Subway, 1938. I'd be quite interested to see if they show some of his early work that wasn't the colour field stuff, and I'd like to look at that. It dealt with feelings of alienation in city life, and Rothko also co-founded the art group The 10 in 1935, whose members included artists William de Kooning, Ilya Bolovotsky, William Baziotes, and Adolf Gottlieb. So he was the founding member of the 10, which is interesting. So he's like the boss of the abstract expressionists. Members of the 10 rejected realist painting, which it's in its different forms dominated American cultural landscape at the time. Now, I kind of reject realist painting to some degree. I don't know why, but I do. I don't have anything against it. I like to look at it, but for me, when I'm making art, I seem to reject it. Like other abstract expressionists, he showed a profound interest in European surrealism, particularly the works of artists Jean Miro and André Masson. Throughout the 1940s, Rothko created surrealist images dominated by amorphous shapes. Interesting. Towards the end of the 1940s, he began transitioning towards entirely abstract painting. His initial abstract paintings, collectively known as multiforms, were composites of colour-free form shapes, and by 1950 he had developed his mature abstract style. He reduced his abstractions to a few floating rectangles vertically aligned against a colour background. Created paintings like number 61, Rust and Blue, intending to communicate the essence of the human condition by focusing on the pure essence of colour and structure. The artist wanted his colour-filled paintings to generate symbolic and metaphysical meaning, and he also wanted to make you cry, like just be that moved when you saw them that you burst into tears. One of Rothko's most famous works was commissioned in 1964 by art patrons John and Dominique de Menil. The couple admired the spiritual character of Rothko's paintings and tasked him with the decoration of a Catholic chapel in Houston. Besides, Rothko was given a control over the design of the space, which eventually led to several arguments between the artist and the architect, Philip Johnson. Eventually, Johnson, interesting, it says Johnson and then Johnston, was replaced with Howard Barnstone and his partner Eugene Aubrey, who worked closely with Rothko to translate his version into architectural terms. Rothko worked tirelessly on the commission, selecting 14 paintings that were distributed symmetrically on the walls of the chapel. Oh yeah, Rothko's chapel. For the chapel's apse, I'm not very religious, I apologise. He created a monochrome triptych painting in which two sides of the panels were positioned lower than the central one. Half the paintings had a black colour field, while the rest the mixed dark tones of blue, crimson and maroon. Now I do know that in the documentary Francis Bacon said he hated Rothko's maroons and paintings and called them dreary and miserable. I don't think that's the case for all of them. So I think maybe he was playing a bit and also perhaps being a bit unfair. The atmosphere of the chapel was of silent darkness. In his paintings, Rothko tried to evoke a spiritual experience that went beyond the word of God. Well, now there's an aim. It's not, when I set out to make a painting, I don't think I'm getting, like I'm thinking I'm going beyond the word of God. I mean, that's impressive. So there you go. He did have a tragic end and probably does win the prize of most depressed artist. He committed suicide on the 25th of February 1970, and he failed to see the completion of the chapel in 1971, which was named the Rothko Chapel in his honour. I think he might have done some artwork for like a big famous American officers, some kind of office, like in the canteen or something. I'm not sure if that was another artist. Could you imagine seeing that when you went for your lunch? So yes, he probably was the most depressed of all the abstract expressionists. I mean, Jackson Pollock was also pretty depressed, but I'm not sure he purposefully killed himself, even though he did drive his car into a tree. Right, let's start with the artwork then. We've learnt a little bit about Mark Rothko himself. So in 1938, we heard of this entrance to the subway painting. So he's moved to America, and he apparently feels alienated. So he's painting sort of what we might call banal subject matters, and interesting that he's got these vertical blues here already that sort of, to me, might represent some of his later works. We've got these people going down the stairs. I've got some religious folk over here by the looks of it. I don't know why I think they're religious. Maybe that's just the ticket man, but these little crosses, I don't know, it's like church pews or something. I'm not really sure of, maybe he had a little religious corner in your train stations in the 1938 times. Anyway, I think we can say that in some ways, I mean, there's good perspective, and then these letters are quite well painted up here, but it's overall quite crude, and he's chose not to do the faces in any great detail. The building itself is more the subject. Okay, and then this one I'm already thinking Kandinsky when I see it. So he's taking some kind of taking something from Kandinsky. He's been a little bit inspired by him, maybe, but it's maybe a bit more figurative, with these to me looking like legs and a woman's waist and a hat. Now I don't know if this would be a female over here or a male. I don't know. If I had to guess, I would say 2 females, but hard to say. These are like bones. This one definitely. I see a little bit of Francis Bacon in that as well at the bottom there. And here, interesting. And this is like Kandinsky with the music almost coming in, like the musical notes and stuff and the shapes. So he's not started out, I mean, how could he have started out? Probably totally as an abstract expressionist in total abstraction. Now, we do not know if this is exhaustive of all his works. It's probably not. It's probably just what some kind person has managed to put together on the weekends and stuff. So we're diving straight into his colour field paintings. So from 1944 to 1947 and from 1938 to 1944, I'm sure he must have done other work. So I think this is the first colour field painting, but I would say it almost looks like a corner of a room, and he's used these oranges and reds, and there's a nice little yellow band here at the bottom. I would say compared to some of his later ones, I think he used a lot of like thinners for the oil paint, so it sort of soaked into the canvas and ran and bled. I have tried to make it on a smaller scale a Rothko style painting, and I found it actually very difficult to do. Might have another go. I know a little bit more about the potential mechanisms by how I might make it work this time. Last time it was literally the first thing I tried when I kind of took up painting. Okay, so then we're on to the next colour field one, number 3/number 13, magenta black, green on orange in 1949. 2 years later. And, you know, these are paintings that you can stand in front of and get a feeling for, and they're gigantic, and they're supposed to hit you in the face in that kind of way. I'm not sure how much we can sit and just talk about each one, because they are, like, I can say, oh, look, a green bit, a black bit, a white bit. It's definitely more layered than the others, and we've got this central field a little bit more, line at the top of the bottom and the middle. So maybe some kind of evolution or metamorphosis from the previous one, and maybe a little bit more finesse in terms of an idea. Then we kind of jump back a little bit, and we've got these yellows. For me, the yellow ones, the yellows, the blacks and the reds are the most appealing. This is violet as well. So maybe this is supposed to be the violet bit. I'm not sure I'd call that violet, but who am I to say? So yeah, this bleeding of the yellows into the whites there. I think he's put some white on there as well. So at this phase, maybe he's still relatively cheerful as a chap. I think as we get later and later on, yeah, then it might get a bit more dark. I think once I scrolled down there, it did look more finessed and more developed as an idea. Now we've got this line in the middle. What does that represent? Oh, I do like that. A little scratched line. And how did he achieve that with the paint kind of soaking in to the canvas? And I don't think these were necessarily prime canvases. How did he get that line to come out like that? So sharp against the You can see the little band of yellow behind the back. It's painted over there. And, if you look at the subtle differences around the canvas, and this gap here, very precise in some ways. Yeah, if you look around at that, he's put a lot of thought and effort. This bit in the middle, it's beautiful. I love that. It's like a little landscape stretching through the centre of the painting. Number 2. It doesn't make sense that none of these are in order. And that's called number 2 and that's called number 5. Yet that was apparently made before, but maybe he started it before. Who knows? Who knows? We're here to learn. So this one's interesting. I've not seen this one before. So green, and then the white, and then the red in the middle. This delicate line here is still there, so that's a feature, and recognizable as a Rothko. Not my favourite. This looks pretty classic. More of the similar colours. The line's less defined. I still like that one with the scratches in it best so far. This big patch of pinky lavender or rose here, really hitting me and overwhelming me more than these. That does feel like an emotion to me. Something that's getting in the way of these complicated, subtler ones. And this one's just overbearing in comparison to the others. I kind of wish it wasn't there. It's blocking something out. This is more delicate and that one's blocking something out. Rust and blue, being mentioned in the description. It definitely is beautiful. Look at the browns up there. Just the way the colours are so, and just they're so pure, but then there's these little differences. And this brown down here into burnt umber, maybe sienna or something. It's saying rust, but who knows? And then this field of blue and black, and then the border. You have to remember, this was the first time that people were seeing stuff like this. This is in like the 1940s and 1950s. People are supposed to be kind of prudish compared to now. And then you look at these things and then you think about our society now and how it sort of criticises like abstract and stuff like that. And I don't know, what did the public think of all this back then? I think there's probably more academic discussion about these things than there is now. These days we've got so many things to entertain us that I think we forget about this kind of stuff. And this was a form of entertainment, wasn't it? To go and see these at museums and then maybe talk about them and think and philosophise about them. Now we really are just spoon-fed a lot of stuff if we don't make the effort to escape that. The conscious effort. It's easy to while away the time. These little bits of orange here at the bottom. Again, something over the top. This seems sort of in the background and separate, but this seems over the top of that. Like, that there's a big field of, let's call it orange, and it's there because of the way it's coming from behind, but this is just layered over it and you're not allowed to see it. Right. Maybe I just went through these wrong because they're sort of all shuttled about on the page. Number 3. It's big, bloated bit of red here, tiny bit of yellow at the bottom. This is just like a room up here. I don't know why they really do have some kind of strange psychological effect on me. I'm not crying though, Mark, I'm sorry. It takes a lot to get me there. Okay, so more individual fields of colour, more of a portrait painting, this little bit at the bottom, and these little bits coming out almost like they're dripping down, and yeah, this sort of line across here as well. The blue appears most strongly to me. Black on maroon. This is where Francis Bacon's getting upset with him and such, and saying it's depressing. Well, it's not cheerful, is it? We'll give Francis that. It's interesting that this is the vertical line. Reminds me of the bits in the subway station in the first painting. And this off-centre left thing is interesting as well, and how that and that. But the black kind of messes with it. It does create an interesting effect. He's feeling gloomy there. But then, boom, 1956, so this is before orange and yellow. This is before black on maroon. This orange is beautiful. Like a sunny day. Oh, it's like a horizon and the sky and a cloud and this orange like an out of focus, or through a window even, an out of focus photograph. Gorgeous. Right, I failed at getting in these into any sensible order. Black on Maroon's 1959. 1954, so we're going into the Rothko chapel. It kind of makes sense that these flow here. I don't think that should be there. That should be like over here. These are kind of all just jumbled up. The Rothko Chapel. Where is the Rothko Chapel? Houston, Texas. An interesting place for such a chapel. Whoa. That's all I can say. Beyond God. Don't know what to say about it. I'd like to visit it. It'd either be really, really overwhelming or really, really underwhelming. Then this is sleek. This little line down here, look. Subtle. Finessed. Wow. Precise. Minimalistic, to say the least. But still something. Looks a bit like a Game Boy. But make a Rothko Game Boy. Have your Tetras coming down in blacks and greys. I think this is probably my second or third favourite. The orange one. This one, the one with the scrapes. This is beautiful as well. So it's cheered up a bit now, maybe. Although blue's not always a cheerful colour. Some kind of balance and symmetry. I really do think it is these paintings are the most abstract expressionist of the paintings. They're both highly abstract, and you really can't attach anything to them except for maybe the subtle basic forms of a landscape and a window, but you really can't attach anything to them, and they really are just expressing through the colour and not a lot else. his moods or what he wants you to feel or think you should be feeling when you're looking at it. Red. Bit different. Brush marks. More visible, less soaked in, I think. More painted on. Just a little bit up there. In the Guggenheim in New York. Right, this is like the surface of the moon. 1969, so he died in 1970, did he? I think so. We're near the end. I always think these paintings are very interesting. Look at that. Is that done by him on purpose, or is that an artifact of the way they're painting? I think that's probably done by him on purpose. Look at this here. The landscape, almost. In some ways, the most realist of his paintings, really, because it's just a horizon and great. Look at this. It looks like a face in there. Terrifying face, and like claws and stuff coming out down here. Now that's one I'd like to look at in, like clouds up there as well. I'd like to look at that in person. Where's that? Why can we go and see that? Not telling me. Might be in a private collection. We haven't gone into all 180 of his artworks. We've just looked at the highlights. Now this is a mistake on my part then. Let's have a look. The back here. Scraped off and then just black and black and black laid on. Let's have a quick look at all 180 then. See if there's some interesting things in between. Oh, lots of interesting things. What were we thinking? Right, so let's have a look at it quickly. His early work. Very sort of typical painting. So, you know, he's not found his style, he just took up painting like all of us. Started off getting impressionistic, maybe crude, like that says expressionism, but I don't know. Three nudes, this is Picasso-like. Everyone does some Picasso-esque type things, don't they? The Maids of Avions, or whatever it's called, with the prostitutes, similar to that, by Picasso. An interior, greens and reds, look, that's colour field like, in the way it's separated there. And I mean, it's fair to say he doesn't like putting detail in, isn't it? His self-portrait of himself here, he's got some funky glasses on. Looks like he means business. Mouth's crude, I'm always crude when I paint mouths. This red tie, he's definitely using colour. Definitely interested in colour. More maybe than the structure. The realism. A rural scene. Some ladies. Just hanging out in the agricultural backwaters of America. Or maybe Latvia. We do not know. Street scene. Interesting. Mother, two children. We've got more of the verticals here, and this seems, the colour field-esque thing seems to represent more than the people who are somewhat marginalised on the side there. Two ladies looking out a window type thing. Again, we've got the window thing. I think the ingredients are all being laid for these colour field paintings. What can we think about these two? They're holding hands. Interesting. Entrance to the subway we've seen. Woman standing, man. Standing man and woman. Let's have a look. A bit more of the emotions of the people in it. A bit more detail. Oh, this I like. Window again though. Colour field. Look at that. And how straight on it sort of is. There's not a lot of perspective in that. And then the colours over here, the blacks and the greys. Things, seen all these things before when he's painting those later black works. This colour here. It's got the lady there. The hand up. Kandinsky-esque again. Don't know. I feel like it's almost biological. What's this all about? Sacrifice of Iphigenia. Don't know much about the sacrifice of Iphigenia. It's probably going to be some kind of rabbit hole that I'm going to go down later now. It's like a hat, but their legs coming out. So that's interesting. What's this about? Almost like a dog's mouth. Underground fancy. We've got 160 artworks. I'm going to have to rack it through these, aren't I, if I'm going to make it a video that's less than an hour. Okay. People on the streets again. The stretching is interesting. So he seems to be trying some stuff out with the figurative there as well before he abandons it altogether. These are more of the same, similar ilk. Let's load some more and see where we go from here. Interesting. So these are the ones that are kind of Kandinsky-like, but more of a natural structure and attempt at realism, some kind of surrealism as well, like the dripping here almost of Salvador Dali's clocks and things like that. It's like an interesting face, cloud. So it's like some kind of bird to me, but. And there's obviously now some stuff I don't guess. So much to learn, isn't there? No, so little. Now these are interesting. Look at this. Whoa. Like some kind of crazy chicken. Bits of Francis Bacon in this, bits of later works by Basquiat maybe in this. I think Basquiat did a lot of study. Is there some Georgia O'Keeffe here? I'll let you decide that. Primeval landscapes, some very reddy reds there. Bit cubist. Rights of Lilith, Untitled. This is like maybe... No, this is maybe... We're heading into Colourfield here, so 1947. This is what we could probably... Still got the hints of the previous stuff, but it really is just headed into the colour field now, isn't it? This looks like somebody or something going on. So 1947, we're seeing the first colour field works. And then here it seems to be backing back and forth a bit. I can see how when you start to discover something new, you might not be quite willing to commit to it in its purest form, like the later paintings, and you're still sort of hanging on before. And let's face it, these guys who were so famous, once they found a formula of something that worked and represented who he was, then they stick with it, don't they? They're not very eclectic once they find their thing. So these are sort of all over. And they are again, then we're starting to get the first bits of the colour field, like this one up here, number 21. Playing around, and then this is an interesting one. It's like two legs coming out of the bottom there. Then we're heading into the colour fields. Beautiful. I think this one, number 22, that's at Mama. So, you know, I may have seen it. I have been to Mama. I don't know if they're all on display or if some of them are stored or rotated. Unfortunately, memory is a thing that often can elude me now I'm a bit older. This one's interesting. It's like an overexposed or an overdeveloped photograph. Boom, like a nuclear explosion. And you got some like welding goggles on, it's just blasted. Semi-blinded you and left you dazed. That is a powerful piece of painting right there. These darker ones, these remind me more of the rooms of where the people he was drawing before exist, and then you sort of leave that behind. And this one, like Rust and Blue, is very, very much about just the shapes representing the colour, whereas there's maybe hints in that one of like a room still. I don't know. It's just with the hint I'm getting of it. This one, look at that. Boom. Black or maroon, and then this yellow here. Definitely a moody piece of artwork, that. Blimey. One to 80 out of 171. So, you know, once he's onto these things, he ain't slowing down, is he? Just going on and on and on and on. So we've got like a mixed phase there, and then we've got like a red and yellows phase there. He's just churning these out now, isn't he? He knows what he's doing. Purple and brown, and then heading more into the maroons, and then these are the famous two black on maroons, and we've got black on maroon here. I don't know why that reminds me of those subway verticals so much, but it does. Oof. Title mural for end wall. So look at that. It's a bit different. And this gives me courage with my own painting to not worry too much about you know, me feeling like it's not got enough in it, because it is detailed though, and this is subtle. But don't need to worry too much. Just get experimental. This one, number 14. Strong. This one here, number 16. Oh, what a blue on white. And it's just bang. It's just hitting you, that blue, isn't it? And this is, I mean, this could be sky, cloud, land and foreground, if you wanted. And then we're into some, what we might call, very much more depressed works as we head towards the chapel. Now this is strong and this is famous, I think. Look at that. Black, red and black. Oof. It's kind of a bit like what I'm doing at the minute. More red's up here, that one goes all the way across, and it's more structured than that, more defined. Interesting. And these are like empty landscapes. They're just being stripped of everything, just like it's a landscape that's just literally being erased. Rothko Chapel. Oh, and that one's a question mark, so it's just in there because nobody quite knows. And then this one as well. Must be earlier, you'd think, when you look at these ones from 1969. This one's just really does slap me in the face. The more I've learnt about art, the more I'm starting to love other artists. And this guy was like when I was like a beginner and getting interested in art, this appealed to me the most. And I'm starting to wonder now whether Gustav Klimt for me now, I'll probably say is the best painter. Like, and we'll go into his work one week and I'll tell you why I think that is. But the best artist, there's a difference, isn't there? There's a difference. Right, what did you think to Mark Rothko? I think if you haven't been able to see his works, you should go and have a look, see what you think. There's going to be loads of other out there as well if you don't like it. Anyway, that's a Wiki Art deep dive. For painting chat later in the week, I think we'll do some work on my abstract expressionist painting. Talk a little bit about Mark while we do it. Okay, Dead Art Studios, Wiki Art deep dive. See you later.